Welcome to the Board Game Network. This is James. I'm going to be explaining how to play this game called Octopod, put out by AEG. It plays 1 to 4 players in about 15 minutes, so it does have a solitaire variant in this game. Here's the setup. You put these lab tiles out and it's got A1, B1, C1, but if you'll notice there's an A2 on the back. So at your beginning you probably want to just do the A1, B1, C1 sides, but in the future you might want to just randomly throw them out there, or however you want to do it, because the other sides have different abilities. Each person takes a color. You're going to have 4 cubes of that color. One of the cubes goes at the top of each of the lab tiles. So one red here, one red here, one red here, and you're going to put a red in front of you to show that that's you. And you've got 6 dice, and you're going to take a score sheet. And that's all there is to the setup. And all you do is you roll your 6 dice on your turn. You get 2 actions. But what you're going to do is you're going to roll 6 dice. You're going to pick a black and a white die and save those. And you're going to roll again. So you start with 4. Your second roll is going to, you start with 6. Your second roll is going to be 4. You pick a black and a white and save those, and then you roll again, and then you save those. Once you have your 6 die saved, then you're going to match them up however you want to match them up and score them on your sheet. You are scientists and engineers aboard the underwater research station Aquasphere, but your bots have stopped working. You must expand your labs, analyze crystals, dock new submarines, reactivate the bots, and catch octopods. So your goal at the end is to have the most knowledge points. You go through 6 rounds of doing what I showed you how to do the die rolls. Each of these are set up in thirds. Here's turn 1, turn 2, or round 1, round 2, and then that's a third. Round 3 and 4, that's a third. 5 and 6, and that's a third. So you go through 6 rounds of turns. And then you score after each third. So each 2 rounds you're going to do some kind of intermediate scoring. And then you're going to have a bonus score at the end of the game, and then total up your score. So you get 2 main actions on your turn. And so you'll notice that here's a crystal, here's a gear, here's a computer, a robot, and a submarine, and all of those match icons on the white die here. So if you would roll a crystal and that, you match that up, then you can take and score based on the crystal column there. You'll notice it's got a black with a question mark there. That means you score points based on the black die. So the white die tells you which action, and the black die tells you how that action is carried out. So in this case, if I decided I wanted my first action to be the crystal with the blue 1, that's probably hard to see, but there's a 2. And this die only has a 0, 1, and a 2 on it, plus an octopod, which is purple on black, so I know you're not going to see that. But let's say you got a crystal with a 2. So if you decided that was going to be your first action, what you do is you write a 2 in here in the first space, or you just, actually what you do is you cross it out to show that you've used that, and then you put the 2 down here in the A1 column for turn 1, your first action. And if you ever get all of the circles crossed out on any of these columns, then you can't do that column anymore during the rest of the game. So that's how crystals work. The gear, if I have a gear here, now you'll notice there's arrows between here, which means you have to start at the top and work your way down. So you have to have a yellow and then a red and then a blue and a green and a white. So if I rolled a gear and a yellow, I could use that for my second action and just cross that out, and that shows me that I get 1 point for a yellow. So I would have a 2 for the first action, 1 for the second action. And then my turn would be over because I've got my two actions. Now actually, if I have an octopod, I can cross off octopods on here. You want to get at least 2 octopods every third if you can. And when you get at the end of your saving, however many octopods you have on your dice, you actually get to cross off octopods here for each octopod. You'll notice down here there's an octopod, another octopod, and a -2. If you don't get 2 of those crossed out each third, then you get -2 to your score. So if you get both of them crossed out, you're also going to cross out the -2, so you don't get that. Now actually, if you roll 2 or more in the same turn, there's a bonus here. If you look over in this right hand column, if you roll 2, you get 1 point, 3 is 3, 4 is 4, 5 is 6, and 6 is 7. So if all of them end up being octopods at the end of your 3 rolls, you get 7 points, and you would write that over here under the octopod space, any of these bonuses. But of course, if you got 6, then you wouldn't be getting any points for your main actions, because all of them would be devoted to octopods. Okay, the computer. If you get the computer, then that has to do with the lab tiles here, and then you have to roll on your black die whatever number you want to move down to, and you have to start at the top and work your way down. So the very first one would have to be a 0. So if you had a computer and a 0, you could move your cube down to the 0 tile of any one of these columns that you want. And here's the rule book. It has a reference card for what each of these does. Like this one lets you make any yellow die into any number or color of your choice. So if you save at the end of your 3 die rolls, if you save a yellow, and you have this, once per turn you could use that to say, well, I'm going to use this as a green 1 instead of a yellow 0. So it helps you be more flexible in doing other things, and each of these other ones do some other stuff. The robot, if you roll the robot, then whatever color is on your black die is what you're going to cross out, and you have to start with the left one first and then the right one. So if I rolled a robot and a 0, the yellow here, I would cross out the yellow, but it's got a 1 point, so I'd write 1 point in whichever action that was. If it was my second time I rolled a yellow, then I would get 2 points for that action. The submarine actually does not score any points. What it does is it scores points during your intermediate actions. Every third you get points based on how many of that color you've got crossed out. So if I crossed out the submarine yellow, I would get 1 point for each crossed out circle to the left of it of yellows, and that goes over here in my points here at the end of the third. Okay, so that's every one of those actions that you can take, and then it becomes the next player's turn, and you go and you go and you go. Now you can actually, there's down at the bottom of each third, there's a 1 and a 2 with an I beside it, and that allows you to use 2 of an opponent's die rolls that you get to score. So let's say, you know, Bill over here, he ends up with whatever. At the end of his die rolls, he ends up with that. And you say, well, you know what? Here's a gear, and here's a red die he's saved. Now, no matter how he matches them up, I can say I want this one and this one, and use the gear with the red and score 2 points, and I put that in my first action space there that an opponent rolled, and I get 2 actions per third. So for every 2 rounds I get to do that twice. It doesn't have to be once per round, but it can be, and you can't do it on the same player's turn. You can't use both of them on the same player's turn. So if he saves 6, I can't do those and say I want these 4. You can only use 2 on a player's turn, and you have to wait for another player to roll something else that you want. And so you end up getting points there. And you can use 2 dice for octopods that the opponent rolls too, instead of something that's going to give you points. So instead of using like the gear red, if he had 2 octopods, you could use those 2 and cross out your octopods here, and also score that bonus there. Okay, so then there's the intermediate scoring, and what happens on the intermediate scoring is you total up your points for your first turn, both actions, your second turn, both actions, your opponent's turns, both actions, and whether you got the -2 on the octopods, and if you got any submarines over here, whatever points you got for those, based on how many robots you have crossed out, that you also have a submarine crossed out for. You write that total down there, and so you just total all those points up, 2, 3, and let's say I've got a 3 here, and I've crossed that one out because I didn't get any points. So 2, 3, and 3 is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and I write an 11 in here. So that's my intermediate scoring for the first third. And then you go through a second third and a third third. And then you have bonus scoring, which is here, and that only happens at the end after the third third has happened. And you'll notice it's got an icon of a crystal here, or a diamond, a gem. And you go over here and look, and there's a first bonus and a second bonus. So whoever has the most gems for the game gets 4 points, and whoever has the second most gets 2. If there's a tie, you just divide, you round up between the two. If there's a tie for first, you add first and second, so you take 6 points and divide by the number of players that tied, round up, and you take that and add to the computer, which is this bottom level here. The level 2 actually scores points at the end of the game. None of the other ones give you any points. So if you have one of your cubes down here, you just need to look here and it'll tell you how that scores on the level 2 or the third level. Here it gives you points. So this one says 3, 5, or 7 points for 1, 2, or 3 completely expanded lab columns. So that one's based on how many ones you have completely on down. So you get 3 points if you got one if you're down at the bottom of one column, 5 if you're down at the bottom of 2 of them, or 7 points if you're down at the bottom of all 3. But each of them does something different there. Look at your reference. And you take this points here based on gems plus this points here, and you write that total here. And then you're going to just, your final total is just your thirds. So let's say I've got a 12 there and a 10 there. So I take 11 plus 12 is 23, 33, 43, 45, and then I've got a score of 45 at the end of the game, and you just see who's got the most points. There is a solo way to play this solo. So instead of playing 6 rounds, you play 9 rounds, and you don't get points for an opponent's roll because you're rolling all of them. You just write your third turn in the where you would normally write your opponent's die rolls. So you actually get 3 rolls, 3 turns per third, and you score up for 9 points, or for 9 turns. And then you still do your intermediate scoring, and then there's also a 2-player variant, and the 2-player variant is simply when you're rolling back and forth, you only have one opponent that you can use their opponent's die roll. So what you do instead is, once both of you have gone, you roll as if there was a third player playing, and then both of you can use that as an opponent's die roll also. You just roll it one time, you look and see if you want to pair up something, and use that down here in your opponent's die rolls. So that's how you play OctoDice. It's a very quick, simple game. You just need to know how that scoring works. Some of the black dice is based on the number, some is based on the color, and then you've got the octopods on both the black and the white dice. So whoever's got the high score at the end wins. And make sure you tune into all of the videos here at the Board Game Network, and especially subscribe. We appreciate it.